Viewers, welcome back to the Self-Made Auto Channel. That's a 2005 Cadillac. It's the Escalade, and it's got the big 6.0. Apparently, it's a new vehicle to the guy who picked it up. I think she's Southern because it's not, well, because it's not broken half on the lift. That's how we know that. Pretty clean, needs a bunch of work. Some brakes. It's got a bad hydro boost and I don't know what else. We got a pile of parts over there on the floor. He wants a bunch of service stuff done. All the fluids changed, things like that. It's got a coolant leak, so I'm gonna put the milk machine on this because that's what milk machines sound like, and we'll try to get as many videos out of it as we can. So I think today we'll get started by whacking out some brakes and then kind of move on and just see where life leads us. Whoa! Out of that, we need to make sure this little guy can compress. The other side was locked up tighter than a drum. You couldn't budge that sucker. I think this one's okay because we were able to push it in with a screwdriver. Yeah, this side feels fine. She's going in nice. Make sure you've got enough room in the master cylinder. You know, make sure it's not filled to the tippy top. And or open your bleeder, it's your choice. If you read GM service data, it just tells you to push it back in. As most service data does. Very rarely do you see it where they tell you to open the bleeder. Your daily dose of brake clean, you weirdos. You guys love your brake clean. And if I'm admitting, so do I. And the fluid film. Love me some fluid film. The cure-all product. We got some rotors here from Napper. Not a sponsor. And let me tell you, right now, as of January in the year 2022, speaking to you from the past, rotors are hard to obtain. They're getting difficult to obtain, along with several other parts. But in the aftermarket world, brake rotors are what we're seeing. The problem with brake rotors and oil filters, of all things. you don't get to use the variety that we normally do. We're use what you can get now. So it seems. A little bit frustrating, but for the most part, we're able to get them. It's just you don't get them as quickly as you could. So if you've watched any of the past 800 brake videos that we've done, you'll know that I threw this in the sandblaster. We cleaned off the rusty junk. Although this one wasn't horrible. Must be from Florida. And that's all clean now. However, in the past, I have mentioned to you folks, if you've had time, or if you have time, which oftentimes we don't in the shop. It's one thing we're always running out of is time. But today, it's a special day. Today we have time to do something that we talk about, but we usually don't do. Wow, that's quite a lead up to say, why don't you put a little black paint on there before you put the grease on it, you know what I mean? So that's what we're gonna do. Spritzer with a little brake clean. Don't have to be fancy. Give it a little blow for good luck. And then I found some Rust-Oleum gloss protective enamel. Superior coverage and durability. Not a sponsor. It's just what I found laying over there by Josh. And so we're going to use that. I shook it up. We're just going to give it a little spritz on our caliper mounting, our hardware mounting location. Here in the Northeast, in the Rust Belt, the problem with brake pads, oftentimes, is the rust builds up underneath the hardware. It swells up the hardware, locks the pad up. So that's a very, very common issue. There's been a lot of advancements in caliper brake hardware. You know, the hardware itself will be stainless. It'll have this, you know, silent guard technology, this black coating they put on it, you know, everything in an effort to try to slow down this corrosion. I've mentioned in the past that if you have time, once you clean all the rust off your bracket, if you have time to where you can paint it and let it dry for a little bit, then put the grease on it, then put the bracket on it, I think we can slow it down a little more. So in this instance, I'll show you the example of, if I had time, what I would do, something like that. If I had lots of time, I'd blast the whole thing and paint the whole thing, but we don't have that kind of time. Well, we're sitting here watching paint dry. We're gonna pull the pins out, wipe all the goo off them. You know, it's kind of interesting. Service data mentioned that thread lock in these before reinstalling. I don't know if I've ever removed a set. Even OEM had seen thread lock on them, so I thought that was kind of bizarre. But you know us, we're pretty by the book type people here, so I'm gonna take the black paint on the boots. It's making me cray. Gotta wipe that off a little bit. Don't want to look like a hack. There we go. And then now we've done that, let's find some silicone. So we're going to take a little bit of the Super Lube, silicone lubricating brake grease with silicone. Food grade, dielectric, clean, NSH, H1 registered. Well, we're just going to squeeze a little snake out of there in the hole. There we go. And then we're just going to make sure that we have a little bit on each one of our pins here. And we'll just kind of smooch them around in there. Oh, she's nice and lubricated. Do the same thing to this one. We'll get a little bit of lube up on the pin. And then we wait. I don't know how long it takes paint to dry, but we'll go do something else for a little bit. We'll use a little CRC ceramic. It's ceramic fortified brake system grease. Extreme temperature range from 50 below zero to 3,000 degrees Fahrenheit. By golly, your rotors might turn to liquid, but this grease won't. That's their actual motto. We're gonna stick some grease on the inside of the caliper here. Now this is our practice, as usual. This is going to cut down on not just rust and corrosion, but also noise. It's a very common practice amongst many OEMs. Oftentimes, if they have removable shims on the pads, particularly on Toyotas, you'll see it where they grease in between each layer of shims in the caliper face. You don't have to go cray-cray. make sure if there's a bunch of dirt and debris and rust and junk, you clean that out first. Same thing with the piston faces. We're going to do the piston faces. If they're phenolic, aka plastic, you don't necessarily have to do this. We always do, but you don't have to. These ones are, I think these are phenolic with a metal ring on them. There's that now. Hey girl. Hey. Guess we can just go bug Mrs. O. What's up, Mrs. O?
Look at my tea.
Ew, you're super dark.
My kitty.
Hi, Luna. Hi, Pumpkin. There's another running eyes. Your eye a little boogery, huh?
So they look pretty dry to me. We're gonna take some of our lube. And just in case we're wrong, we're just gonna put it on the back of the hardware. I guess you could do it either way. You could do it on the hardware, you could wipe it on the bracket. If you put it on the hardware, you know it goes everywhere it needs and nowhere that it don't, I suppose. This is the main area in which you want to prevent rust jacking. It's right up through here. This is where it would give the pad the big squeeze. So we've got that one done. Make sure you put them on the right side. Put that baby there. I know there's some folks from the southern areas or from sunny climates where they don't use salt, and this seems kind of like nonsense. Well, you'd be right. But in our climate, this is almost necessary if you want to get the full life out of your pads. So we'll click that little guy on. Like so. Now there are some guys, I've seen them comment on our videos, ask us why we don't grease the ears of the pads. You certainly can. We can even do it in this video. Being that we're pulling out all the stops, we can stick a little grease up here and a little grease right here where they slide. Get the whole thing here. You don't have to go hog wild. There's that. Now your pads on these Chevrolets, you got your one with your double dung or squealer. That's going to be the outside pad. Okay. Now you've got one with a single donger. That's going to be the inside. However, it's only going to, one pad is going to have the squealer here. The other one's going to have the squealer here, but it's only going to fit the bracket one way. There's only a relief cut in the bracket for it to fit one way. You can see how we've got the space down here for it. If we use the one that had the squealer over here, it would not fit. So technically you really can't mess these pads up, technically. However, I've seen them come in where people have just, you know, chopped it off to make it fit. So if it doesn't fit, don't force it. The pad should move nice and smooth. If it doesn't, they're either really crappy pads or you've got too much rust in there still. We're gonna bring our loaded bracket assembly. Now these babies move smooth, so we're gonna try to do this without letting it hit the floor too many times. So we'll slide that bad boy right up there. We'll squeeze our pads. Now the bolts here, I've already put the thread lock on. Stick them babies in there. I think they were torqued down to 100 and something or other. Or snug, whichever torque spec you use. The main thing is you don't want it to fall off. There's that one. And there's that one. And being that we have our caliper all prepped, I did put a little thread locker on these, which I thought was a little unusual. But that's what Cadillac tells us to do. So we're gonna take this one here, just slide that like so, and then we'll slip her down. Pull this one back out. Line up your rubber. Slip her right in there like that. And we'll tighten these bad boys up. Usually these ones that take the torque spit here, the T55, they can be a mother lover in the Northeast. Getting these suckers out. They're so rotted and they're kind of a tapered cut on the edge, so you don't have a lot of purchase with a torque spit. I mean, torque spits are silly as it is, but you know, these aren't square cut to the end, so you get one little slip and it's junk. That's it, folks, you're all done. Technically, once it's all on, you know, you should be able to have some good movement in your caliper. Should be nice and free, at least until you pump up the pedal. And that's all it's left to really do. Pump up the pedal. Don't slam her to the floor. About 2/3 of the way is all you want till the pedal's nice and stiff. Fill up your brake fluid if it's down low, and then take it for a shake. However, in this video, we're not gonna do that because we've still gotta finish some other stuff. We got the brake on the other side. Same process. That side over there needs a caliper. And if I'm being honest, it's already done, okay? So we put a caliper over there. And then we've got to go on and scoot and do the rear brakes. I think we're going to do a brake fluid flush on it. So we're just going to leave it here on the lift. Check out the other videos coming up on the Escalade. If you want to make sure you don't miss them, subscribe, the bell ring and all that going on there in the comment section. You know the drill. And just remember, viewers, if I can do it, you can do it. Thanks for watching.